Heads up, spoilers. Redemption in fiction is a really interesting concept. When done right, it can make you feel sympathy for characters who have committed unforgivable atrocities, and when done wrong, you get 13 reasons why.
Look, man, I'm sorry. He's up. He gets like beat at home and
I do believe it's true that anyone can have a change of heart for the better, and a bad person turned good will face the consequences of what they did when they were at their worst. I think Negan is a great example of this. Anyone who says Negan never did anything wrong should probably be put on a list. I'm not saying the main characters were angels or anything when Negan first showed up. In fact, Carol and Rick kept taking turns playing the villain, but then a monster rose from the shadows. Negan was an evil man. Cruel and unusual is an understatement for the way he would punish those who crossed him. Inhumane executions, oftentimes at random, is not justifiable against any group of people, no matter how big a threat they are to your little post-apocalyptic empire. Oh, but he had morals. He never forced himself onto the slave wives he had, and he also wouldn't kill kids. Well, just how low is the bar here exactly? Before the dead started walking, Negan was a guy with unresolved anger issues living a directionless life. But after everything fell and he lost his wife, there was nothing left to stop him from becoming his worst self, except eventually himself. In seasons 9 through 11, we see his very slow transformation. Being stuck in a jail cell living vicariously through a child gives you a lot of time to think. He made a name for himself in the worst way possible, and we see him starting to regret that. It is completely impossible for him to ever right his wrongs, and the best he can do now is do right by everyone going forward. We see him at his best when he's trying to help Lydia. He feels bad for her because she has a similar reputation to him within the community, but unlike him, she never did anything to deserve it, except be the child of an insane person. We see him do his best to comfort and defend her, and these generally selfless actions that tend to only put him at risk shows us that he's evolving as a person. I think it's especially interesting because it's a realistic evolution. We don't see these changes happen overnight, we see them happen over years. Even when he's doing good, we don't instantaneously see him feel remorse for his past actions. It takes time. We see him in several situations where we aren't sure if he's still the bad guy or not, and while it's clear that there's still some ugliness in there, we do see the goodness prevail. Eventually, the changes are so drastic and believable that we do come to trust him. As an audience, we've seen enough from his actions, talks with others, and time he spent alone to know that he is not the person that he used to be. But you know who didn't see all that? Maggie. I would argue that none of the main characters who are still alive have suffered more at the hands of Negan than Maggie has. She had so much taken away from her in the cruelest way possible. She originally had so much fury and so much pain as a result of Negan that the only thing that kept her going was the idea that one day he would pay for it with his life. The only thing that helped her come to terms with him still being around was seeing him so incredibly miserable that she was okay with him being alive. But he's not that miserable anymore. Really early on in this final season, we see her wanting to kill him again, in fact, several times. Negan knows it too. He was gonna leave her to die because of it. And here's where my biggest problem with this show comes up. This show I love so dearly. You're telling me that Maggie is going to let Negan watch her son? Are you joking? Are you joking with me? Is this a prank? Am I being bamboozled? Listen, I don't care how far he's come. That man killed your child's father in front of you. It wasn't an accident, it wasn't quick, it wasn't humane, it was like the most evil, cruel nonsense you could imagine. And she's just like, yeah, that guy can watch my kid. That guy, the reason my kid doesn't have a dad, yeah, you can take care of him. Negan's like, but the kid doesn't trust me, probably because I killed his dad, but I'm starting to. What do you mean you're starting to? Why? Remember half a year ago when he left you to die? What do you mean you're starting to trust him? What? And the reason she says she's starting to trust him is because he did save her kid before earlier. It was in a circumstance where she didn't put the kid with him. He just happened to come across the kid and he saved him anyway, you know? But it's not like Negan's soft spot for kids is a new thing. Back in the day when Carl was still around, he saved Carl. Let me have Negan explain it.
Your kid? He hid in one of my trucks and machine gunned a bunch of my men down, and I brought him home, safe and sound. And I fed him spaghetti.
And I'm sure Maggie heard about this. He did the same thing with Judith. When Judith ran off in the little snowstorm, Negan was literally the only guy who went after her. Just because he's not gonna kill a kid doesn't mean that he should be put in charge of the kid when he's the one that killed the kid's dad, you know? I'm not saying I don't think Negan is fit for the job. I'm saying, what in the world led Maggie to this conclusion? Maggie didn't see any of this cool character development that we did. I think she's aware that Negan is trying, but I don't see how that could possibly be enough. And the actor who plays Maggie probably feels the same way. She's come out and said that that scene where she tells Negan that she's starting to trust him felt like throwing up. Now listen, their scene in the finale was really good and kind of cleared some of that up. I did really like that, but I feel like it may have almost played out the way it did because of backlash from that episode though. This conversation should have happened long before this event took place. This makes sense, this doesn't, okay? Good, bad. They fixed the problem, but that was a bad part of that episode. Alright, thanks for listening. I'm gonna release a little video talking about the finale and my thoughts on it, and talking about my predictions, that some of them were obviously extraordinarily wrong, and I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe. Watch my stuff, okay? Goodbye.